Hey, what's up, gang? Mike Shamborn from Cult Classic Neo, and we're right back at it with our ELEX discussion. Tonight, since we've already covered the overall story, we've covered the Berserkers of Eden, we're going to jump right into the Albs of Xacor. Remember, the purpose of these 4 videos, along with all the other probably hundreds of ELEX videos I'm going to make once I get to play it, is to focus on why I'm excited about the narrative. For one of the few times in my life, there's very few video games ever in history where I get excited about the story, and this is one of them. And I'm hoping, praying even, that it doesn't disappoint for all of us. So the Albs of Xacor, let's read about them. Where the meteor destroyed, it also gave the people of Magalan their future. ELEX, we know that. Harnessing its power for technology is only the start. By consuming pure ELEX, all the people of Magalan can be stronger, think clearer, and free from emotion. Sounds like equilibrium. That's kind of dope. Driven, focused from their base in the mountains of Xacor, the Albs are reaching out to conquer Magalan. They claim that all ELEX is theirs by right. The Albs are sure that only strength can save the weak. Only strength can save, and the weak must be sacrificed for Magalan to survive. So had a little trouble reading that there. You can tell that English is not these guys' first language. They have a very unique way of translating that English, but neither here nor there. The Albs of Xacor. So I assume, and one of the questions I have about how the game plays in conjunction with the narrative is, so we talked about the Berserkers of Eden in the last video. So they're all about nature and getting away from the mechanistic ways of Xacor, when Xacor is invading everybody and trying to bring strength. Like, they're the Genghis Khan, basically, of this world. You got the Berserkers in Eden are like the hippies and the peaceful people. You got Xacor is just trying to kill everybody and do what they got to do. But one of the things that I'm concerned about, because I desperately want to have sword play and gun play in my game, one of the things I'm concerned about is if I side with the Berserkers of Eden, do I get to use the technology? Because their whole thing is about moving away from the technological and moving toward the natural. You know, basically rebuilding the world using ELEX and moving away from the technology that maybe the technology was part of the hubris that led to this meteorite striking the planet. We don't know yet, and I kind of don't want to know. I'm saving that for when I actually get to play the game. One of the concerns I have is I certainly want to partake in the gunplay. And if the Berserkers in Eden won't let me do that, how am I going to play the game? How are you going to fight against enemies that can partake in gunplay and you're still rocking a sword? And do you get access to the jetpack? You know, and I assume that you do, because the core gameplay, I'm sure, is centered around jetpacking, swording, and gunfights. But it's just something very interesting to think about, that the Albs are the ones that are all about technology. And I imagine, since most Piranha Bytes games, again, let you dabble in all of the factions, at least early in the game before they force you to pick one, that you're going to be able to partake in it at some point. But I wonder, like with the Berserkers of Eden, will it get to a point where it's like, oh, you got to turn those guns in, son. Turn them in. Now, the other thing I wonder about, because more modern Piranha Bytes games forced you to choose a faction and basically ride that faction all the way to the end of the game. But going back to Gothic 3, you had all the factions. But again, spoiler alert, one of the options in the game was basically to say screw all of the factions and just kill everyone. And that was actually how I chose to play, because the game got a little tedious with the way the town management worked, and basically sectioning off parts of the game until you had developed the cloud or whatever. And I really wasn't into that. But I'm curious how this cutoff's going to work. I sincerely hope, and I've said this before, but it bears repeating, that ELEX is going to go back to the Gothic 3 days. Again, Gothic 4 or Arcania, if that's what folks prefer to call it. I think a lot of people prefer to call it Arcania because they were very angry that that game bore the Gothic name, because it was kind of a not up to snuff with previous Gothic games. Like, Gothic kind of had this progression of disappointment with its fans. Now, granted, I came to Gothic late. Arcania was actually the first Gothic I had ever played, and then I went back and played 3. I have 1 and 2. Maybe I'll play them one day, but they're very hard. They're very slow, and I can't play games very well with just a keyboard, so I'd have to mod it. But the point I'm making is, I really hope that Piranha Bytes is going to get away from what they did in Risen. Because remember, Risen 2 and 3, as much as I talk about how I loved Risen and I love Gothic 3, I hated Risen 2 and I barely liked Risen 3. I never finished Risen 3. I got frustrated with it and kind of walked away from it because I got bored. I'm really hoping this game with newer technology is going to go back to the Gothic 3 formula, where it's a huge open world that's a bit constrained at first until you kind of learn the ropes and you start to deal with the factions, but eventually allows you, the freedom to go out there and explore the world and be a part of what's going on. So that is the Albs and Xacor. They are the technology mongers, really curious about how their story is going to play out. Again, friends, thank you so much for watching. I say it every episode, but I think it's important. Cult Classic Neo is all about us being friends, hanging out, talking games. If that's something you're into, you want to come here for the intellectual discussion, the fun, the comedy, all the stuff that we do here. Remember, the overall purpose, beyond just us being friends and hanging out, is really, I want to bring a positive environment where you can come enjoy game content without any cynicism and really walk away. Maybe your life is, just an eighth of an inch better because somebody positive came and spoke a word of encouragement to you over a video game. And that's really what I believe in. I believe in, video games as a chance for us not just to play games together, but to commune with one another as human beings and have a positive impact on each other's lives. That's what we do here. Subscribe if you're into that, and I'll catch you on the next one.